With the release of the Apple AirPods Pro, everybody seems to want to know what's the best true wireless earbuds with noise canceling over $200. Like, which one's the best? And it's come down to this Apple AirPods Pro or this Sony WF-1000 MX3, whatever. So we're going to compare the two in a video right now. Hey there, friends on YouTube. My name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. If this is your first time here, thanks for showing up. I really do appreciate it. Hope you'll come back again. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back one more time. I hope you'll do it many of those more times. At any rate, let's discuss the Apple AirPods Pro versus the Sony WF-1000 XM3. Sony has problems with their naming conventions. Clearly, they have other problems too, like this ugly case. But we'll get into that. We'll get into that as we go on. Let's take some time. We'll just break down these headphones from the least important to the most important things. We'll start with look, fit, finish, usability, features like noise canceling and app integrations and all that kind of mobile device stuff. And finally, we'll get into what really matters, where the results might surprise you. We will talk about the sound and how these two headphones compare to one another. Looks-wise, neither of these are going to win any kind of awards. I mean, the AirPods Pro are an improvement over the original AirPods, if only because they fit your ears better and the stock is shorter now, so it doesn't stick out of your ear like a Q-tip. They only come in white, which bothers some people, but I have to admit, trying to find a $250 AirPod in black on the floor and in a dark room would really make me kind of nervous to hear a crunch at some point. Not to mention how much easier it would be to lose a black headphone, just in general anywhere. So white is not maybe the best, but it's there. The case, as you can see, has been elongated from the original case. And this case is remarkable only in that it's relatively small, especially when compared to the Sonys. The Sonys, however, look like relics from a different era. The buds themselves recall the ubiquitous Bluetooth earpiece once found in every businessman and truck driver's ear. They're just really kind of not very modern looking. The case on the Sonys is ugly as hell. And this champagne brass color, I feel like I'm in the lounge of a Radisson hotel in 1984. This is the ugliest color on the face of the planet. But for some reason, Sony and a lot of other manufacturers are using this as an accent color to a lot of their tech. When worn, the Sonys definitely stick out of your ears farther, which isn't good. For one thing, that causes a lot of wind noise when you're wearing them and walking or exercising. The AirPods have a smaller profile, and so that is not a problem with the AirPods as much. In fact, you can barely see them in your ears when you're wearing them from the front. From the sides, of course, you can see them. While the Sonys come with 3 sizes of foam and silicone ear tips, and the AirPods Pro only have silicone, the AirPods in my ears were much more comfortable to wear over time. The Sonys are heavier and they required a little bit more fiddling to get the fit right, while the AirPod fit was really sort of easy and unnoticeable compared to that experience. Neither one of these headphones is going to win any design awards, but I give the edge to the AirPods because they are the least offensive. Yes, they might look like little hair dryers, but I'd prefer that over whatever it is that these things look like. And if you're wondering, both earbuds have some sort of fitment test software in the phone, so you can see if your ears have the right tips. I tried that both. I got them all the way that they're supposed to be, and I still found that the AirPods were much more comfortable to wear than the Sonys. And that brings us to the tech. Which of these two earbuds offers the best in adjustment, interaction, audio features, all that kind of stuff? I should start by saying that the Sonys have a dedicated app, which sounds like a good thing at first until you try and use it. Nothing in the app is clearly defined, the interface is not intuitive, and most of the features are poorly designed. You have access to something called adaptive sound control, which will adjust something in how your headphones work, depending on what you're doing, whether you're sitting, walking, inside, outside, commuting, something like that. It's not very clear, it's not explained very well. I found all the stuff in the Sony app to be somewhat gimmicky and not really needed, so I turned a lot of it off. You can choose varying levels of noise cancellation when the adaptive sound is off, and I found the noise canceling in the Sonys to be very good. I just had it all the way up as much noise canceling as possible. The AirPods Pro noise canceling wasn't as complete. It wasn't as like just dead silent as the Sony's. I have a mechanical keyboard here, and the sound from the mechanical keyboard was definitely coming through the AirPods Pro more than it was coming through the Sony's. But the noise canceling was, I lacked, for lack of a better word, it was comfortable, and I didn't feel pressure in my ears while I was wearing them. I felt a little bit of, like, a lot of noise canceling headphones will have some sort of like vacuum pressure feeling, and the Sony's had that a little bit, but not too much. Some things that the Sony app offers that the AirPods don't have are things like EQ profiles, which I tried out and they were all just generally awful. I would never use any of them, as well as much more granular control of the buds. But most of that stuff, as I said, seemed somewhat unnecessary, and the app itself was so sort of bland and confusing. It's called Headphones. That's what the app is called. The AirPods Pro have most of their controls built into iOS 13. You can select between noise cancellation, transparency, and no stuff at all in the volume controls, in the control panel of your phone. Overall, if you're an iPhone user, control of the AirPods Pro is way more elegant and intuitive. So I found that just in usability, the AirPods Pro were much less fussy, much more easy to just sort of like stick them in your ears and go. And now we've come to the topic that we've all been waiting for, the sound. How do these things compare with sound? There are some things to say about what you will initially hear when you compare these two headphones. To the untrained ear, the Sony's will immediately sound better. The Sony's are tuned, if you can call it, to give a big, punchy sound, while the AirPods Pro are not as aggressive. On some level, it might be personal choice which you prefer, but from a less subjective standpoint, comparing them back and forth and really listening closely, the AirPods Pro are the headphone that's actually more accurate in recreating the sound of the source material. The Sony's are definitely more full, but that turns out to be sort of an illusion. The AirPods have a more balanced sound. There's not as much bass in the AirPods, but the overall sound is tighter. The Sony's ultimately sounded to me more processed, while the AirPods had a little bit more of a pillowy, natural feel. I have a whole list of songs. I have a playlist of songs that I use to compare headphones, and in this particular case, I used Pink Floyd's Money as well as Adele's cover of the Cure song Love Song. On Pink Floyd's Money, in the quieter sections of the songs, the two earpods sounded comparable. The Sony sounded fuller, but that's in part because of how the sound is being processed. This gives the illusion of sounding impressive, but after going back and forth several times between the two earbuds, it was clear to me that the AirPods Pro were providing much more realistic sound reproduction, and while not as impressive sounding, they were generally more pleasurable for me to listen to. When I listened to Adele's cover of The Cure's Love Song, the AirPods Pro had a more natural open space to them in the quieter beginning of the song, while the Sony's sounded in the quieter portion it sounded okay, but once the drums and the bass kicked in beginning over verse 2, the Sony's just pushed everything to the front while the AirPods still maintained their space. And I enjoyed that more open sound of the AirPods 2 a whole lot more than what Sony did. The Sony's were almost painful in how they recreated the bass and the highs, just pushing them forward and taking all of the air out so the sound is just crammed into your ears. The AirPods 2 might not sound as dynamic, but they are kinder to the recording and leave that air in there. Again, to the untrained ear, this kind of processing would make the Sony sound immediately better, and there would be a lot of people who would listen to the one and the other and then say, there's no contest, the Sonys are better. And I'm sure that that's what a lot of people have done in their YouTube videos up to this point. But because I spent the time, because I went back and forth, and I spent a whole weekend doing this, in reality, the AirPods Pro are more nimble. They're more subtle. They handle dynamics a whole lot better than the Sonys do. They don't push everything to 11, and that, my friends, is much appreciated. Overall, I would describe the sound of the AirPods 2 as more natural, more realistic, and easier to listen to and enjoy over a longer period of time. The Sonys were much more aggressive, and the DSP that Sony's using in these headphones really pumps the sound. The highs were more digital sounding and shrill. The lows and mids were more sort of hyped and less accurate. It just didn't sound like real music a lot of times. I'm sure that most people would think a comparison between a pair of $230 Sony noise-canceling earbuds against basically an Apple house brand set of headphones would be no contest, and surely there will be people who watch this video and comment down below disagreeing with everything that I have to say here. Perhaps because of taste, perhaps because they want to confirm their own biases based on what they've purchased, but to my ears, after a weekend of comparing the two, the AirPods Pro are the better sounding, more comfortable, less compromised headphone. They sound natural while the Sonys do not, and that ultimately is where I prefer my music to land. So for those of you who came here thinking that the AirPods were just going to get blown out of the water, think again. And if you don't believe me, you can try it out for yourself. Ultimately, everyone hears stuff differently. There are a lot of factors at play when you listen to headphones, and I try and be as objective as possible based on what I know about how headphones sound and should sound. These are both really good earbuds, as they should be for their price range, but if I had to buy one or the other, I would go with the AirPods Pro over the Sony WF-1000 M3 X whatever in a heartbeat. And that is kind of surprising. What about you? Have you tried the AirPods? Have you tried the Sonys? Have you tried them both? What do you think about this? Let me know down in the comments. Let's have a boisterous discussion. Once again, thank you so much for being here. If this was your first time and you want to come on back again, then you can like and subscribe and bell notify yourself. And if you've been here before, thank you so much for coming back again. I really do appreciate it. I hope you'll do it more. If you're interested in becoming more involved in the channel, there's a join button down below. Click that so you can find out more about what kind of perks we offer. But at any rate, I've gone on long enough. To recap, my name is Jason. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Until the next time, I'm out.